You are listening to Know You're Crazy. My name is Susan Denee. We all have crazy. What separates us is how we choose to deal with it. I'm going to be delivering engaging and actionable tools to own your crazy, treat your crazy, and turn it into your own superpower. I hope that you walk away from this show feeling the power and strength within you. And never forget to enjoy your journey because you are worth it. Hey everyone, welcome to the Know You're Crazy show. My name is Susan Denee, and you are listening to Emotional Recovery in the Raw. So happy you're joining me this evening. I am going to be going out on a limb on today's topic. For one, I've never covered this topic before. Number two, I had to do some research on it, and I did not have a lot of time to do research. So I'm going to be bouncing between the few items that I found kind of inspiring about the topic and my intuitive guidance on it and my feelings around it. Yes, this is Know You're Crazy. This is about emotional recovery. So I'm going to bring in the feelings and I'm just going to go for it. And I think I'm also going to kind of share a little bit current time, what's been going on with me briefly. I don't want to make the show all about me, but I think it was I was inspired on the way home today because I got a phone call from a woman, and I will go a little bit into detail about that. So welcome to the show tonight. And tonight's show, or today's show, is going to be on righteousness. How does righteousness come up for you? How does it affect you? Are you even aware of it? And how does it affect the others around you? What I discovered is righteousness kind of has like this, I just think in simple terms sometimes, like I know what I meant when I said, I'm going to do next week's show on self-righteousness, the impact on you and the impact on others in your life. I know how that feels. I know exactly where I'm going to be coming to from that. And so then I thought to myself, maybe I should Google a couple things or do a couple of research, some of the books I read, maybe do a search, in my online books, of course, and find out how much information is there on righteousness and how do people really look at righteousness? So have you ever been in a situation, whether you're the one doing it or you are on the receiving end of it, where you are or someone is inflamed with an opinion that they feel very, I don't even know if this is going to make sense, guys, moral about? Okay, maybe I was inspired by the politics recently. I don't know. But have you been around anybody who is, I'll be even kind of kind when I say this, passionate to the degree where you're like, whoa, hold on there, cowboy, cowgirl, taking a little bit too far. Like, I appreciate all of that, but there's almost like this feeling. So here we come with my feelings, that this perception, this awareness of like a hierarchy behind it, as if I wrote it down because remember I had to take some notes tonight. Defending a moral code from a hilltop while I look down upon you. Self-righteousness. Have you ever suffered from self-righteousness? And I think it really comes from, how am I feeling on the inside? How am I feeling on the inside as I defend? Or maybe I think my motive is I'm advocating for something that I feel strongly about. Which one is it? So when I said self-righteousness, did anyone listening to the show right now have somebody pop in your head? If you did, then just feel that for a moment. Maybe it's somebody you saw online or somebody you saw on TV or whatever, but just think about it. What does a self-righteous individual look like? So when I looked up the word righteousness on, happy old Google, what I found was a ton of religious information came back. And so I'm going to read a little bit of it. Now, if you've been watching the show for a while, or you've been watching me for a while, I am very much like, I can go sit in a church and listen to a sermon and I'm able to filter it through my own stuff. but I don't prescribe to religion per se. So I'm not somebody who's going to, I can appreciate scripture when I read, like if I do somebody's nuptials, I'm usually reading something from Corinthians. You will not see me reading a Bible anytime soon, not because I'm against it. It's just I choose other material. That's all. I read a lot of channeled text is what I kind of dig and geek out on. But having said that, I believe it's all coming from source energy. I believe it's all intended for the betterment of us spiritual beings having a human experience. But what I found online, the reason I go into that is because what I found online was a lot of religious references about righteousness, which then bled into anger. And then it bled into the appropriate use of anger from a godly perspective. And then there were stories about how Jesus practiced anger, but the appropriate use of anger. So, I mean, you can go on and on about righteousness, right? But even as I said, have you had anybody kind of, defend? That's kind of a angry, not angry, I'm getting like intense defending. Defending is standing up for. You could feel some intensity behind that, right? And so as I was reading about this, godly righteousness versus self-righteousness, I was really quite enthralled today as I kind of dug in there and was thinking, because when I think righteousness, I don't ever think religion. Not once did I think about religion. I think of character defect. That's what I think of. I think of somebody taking it too far with their opinion or moral code of philosophy. And I pulled something that just describes it perfectly. And I have to pull up, wrong document. I have to pull up my document here because I got to tell you, it was just fantastic. It said it perfectly. Righteousness is a moral code that involves living honestly, justly, and faithfully, and being humble. Okay, righteousness all by itself is a moral code that involves living honestly, justly, faithfully, and being humble. Okay, all by itself. Okay. Self-righteousness, on the other hand, is a righteousness that comes from one's own goodness and work and can involve a lack of humility. Now you guys know I'm geeking out about this because here are some symptoms of self-righteousness. Here's some symptoms that could be included in self-righteousness. Judgmental, being highly judgmental of others. Okay. I had to look this word up. In fact, I'm going to have to click over here in a minute. Disputatious. Disputatious? Am I pronouncing it? I'm probably not even pronouncing it correctly. A congenial hangout for disputation. Okay. Okay, here's the definition of this. Fond of or causing heated arguments. Do you know anybody like that? They're fond of, or they kind of cause heated arguments. It's that person. Is it ringing a bell? Okay. All right, here's another one. Holding. Now, this was where I was kind of like, when I wrote down my little notes, I wrote this down about, kind of standing on a hilltop looking down. So I thought this was kind of cool. When I clicked over, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Holding moral superiority. Holding a position of moral superiority over others. I do not know how many freaking Facebook posts I have read from anybody who believes that their moral code or their beliefs are the one to go on. And, God forbid this country, this America is going to hell. Okay. I'm just going to go a little tiny tangent before I continue on my self-righteous thing here. I can barely stand to hear somebody say, the world of affairs that we're in right now, the state of affairs, that we're doing so bad right now, the scary stuff out there, we all know what the world's coming to. Oh my God, could we be any more bigger Debbie Downers? I mean, the attitude that somehow we're all just in this horrible place and all these horrible things are happening to us. I mean, oh my goodness. Where's your optimism, folks? Where's your optimism? Where's all the good stuff going on? We're always going to have contrast. We're always going to have a little bit of somebody pushing the envelope and somebody being on the receiving end of that, or vice versa. It's a yin and yang kind of life, right? I mean, we are not going to grow if we don't have contrast. We are just not going to grow if we don't have contrast. It's what compels us to do things differently. So I don't believe that the world is going to hell. Do I believe that there are unfortunate events that are hard to witness? Absolutely. Do I believe that there are behaviors in others that irritate the hell out of me sometimes? Absolutely. But I do not believe that this universe is going to hell anytime soon. I think it's going to be around for a while. Okay, off of my tangent, off my tangent. All right, some symptoms of self-righteousness. Okay, here we go. I'm going to continue. Self-justification, vindicating oneself apart from evidence that would make their righteous self-justification seem almost psychotic. Oh, I got to read that one again because I don't know if I just comprehended that or not. Self-justification, vindicating oneself apart from evidence that would make their righteous self-justification seem almost psychotic. I almost can't even comprehend that one. I kind of hang in there on the first part of it, and then I kind of trail off, so I'm not going to go much into that one. Critical thinking suspension. Now, this one was kind of interesting. Suspending critical thinking and preparing short, simple answers. I think I would probably say this goes into the category of manipulation. Let me just give you a short, simple answer and do no elaboration, just to control the conversation a little bit, to kind of just, sit in my superiority. Like I could totally see where justification and self-righteousness comes into play with that. Using catchphrases. Have you ever known anybody who kind of sarcastically uses a phrase? Using lethal slogans and catchphrases with a self-assured smile. I've got one that I've heard some of my close friends in sobriety use when they get a little bit testy. It's oh, bless you, heal me. But it's kind of said with a little bit of an attitude, so I don't really know if it's working. But using a catchphrase to kind of put up that defense a little bit, that anyway, there might be a little bit of righteousness going on there. Raising the volume, becoming frustrated when the opponent doesn't immediately embrace their enlightened theology, right? Okay, honest to God, there's a reason why I don't geek out about statistics about anything. I tend to, as you know, I'm doing a Know You're Crazy show. I'm very much into the emotional side of things, how they feel for us. I'm also into behaviors that need to be corrected. I'm all about taking accountability. But what I am not about is finding out what the statistics show so that I can prove something other. And I'll tell you the reason why is because if I got into a statistical battle with somebody, I would probably become righteous and indignant and big and angry because I think I would probably start to feel inferior in that. And so there's like this healthy fear in a way. And I'm not trying to go into denial or believe that, these aren't important to look at. But sometimes I'm more about how do these things make me feel and the emotional behaviors. You can throw stats at me all day long, but if it's not helping anything and it's not changing a behavior or a feeling, it's just somebody to show superiority because I believe these statistics are the all. I just don't get it. I just don't dig it. So, but that's okay. So anyways, raising the volume, labeling and name calling. Using labeling and name calling when sheer volume fails to convince. Self-righteousness can hurt people by pushing away people who might make their life, someone's life, truly wonderful and fulfilling. I mean, I just got on this, righteous thing that came in about a week ago. And like I said, it was probably somewhat derived from just different things with the recent election, the behaviors that come out from others when we are in fear. A lot of, I think, self-righteousness will come from fear. I think there's the lack of humility that is involved when we can become too up on our hilltop, looking down onto somebody. I think it's almost, I'd probably say it's sad in a lot of ways for me to witness that and to see that, and yet, and also at the same time, be somebody who understands that is, we're scared. And so sometimes this self-righteousness that we can throw out there and this justification for who we are and kind of the superiority that we need to have or to feel is usually, in my opinion, it's based in our fear and what we're scared of And so if you have found yourself defending a lot lately, or if you have found yourself in arguments with others lately, or you found yourself in really heated justifications about different things that you feel a moral code about, or if you're in that camp of individuals right now who really, with this last election, is really debating the all or nothing with friendships. I just have to say, I had a close friend that, different polar, different ends of the spectrum. And I just called and I said, look, I know that you and I are on different ends here, but I'm pretty sure if a house was burning down and you were in it, I'd run into that thing and try to save your life. And I'm pretty sure that if I was in a house that was burning, that you would do the same for me. Now, I might be projecting a little bit, is what I said on the voicemail because I didn't catch her, but later on she listened to it and she said, thank you for sending that. I had a woman call me and she was mentoring somebody who was really twisted about the same thing. And the woman calling me was also in a state of all or nothing with these relationships around these recent events of our world, all or nothing. And I had pointed out to her a couple different things, but then the thing that really sealed the deal was when I told her that story. Is my friendship valued enough? Are the behaviors appropriate enough within our friendship that these type of things don't need me to hop onto some moral hilltop and look down and say about the righteousness and the way things should be? Can we come into agreement that as individuals, as friends, as people living in this world, that we are compassionate, loving, and we truly do value a lot of the same things? We really, truly do. I learned this lesson back in 2020 when I visited Nebraska. Now I'm in Washington State, and I'm in a corner of Washington State that, it's blue. It is blue. And I go to Nebraska, and the COVID was just heightened. We didn't quite know, the vaccines weren't out. We were seeing, elderly die. I mean, heck, where I'm at and where I live, it literally, the first case was like blocks away from the office I worked at. And so there was a lot of fear and a lot of trepidation. And I know you all remember. But so here I am in Nebraska, and we were in an election back then, if you remember. And so we're in the election. I'm in a hotel room. My mom's positive with COVID. She's like 83, early signs of dementia. My dad's in the hospital, gonna die from COVID. And I'm in a red environment, and I'm in blue and they're in red. My sister, who I love to death, she's in red. I mean, it was just all this weird stuff, right? And it was so heightened, kind of like this last election, where people are really feeling passionate about whatever their side is for whatever reason. And what I noticed in the middle of the storm, it didn't matter, because the phone calls that I would get is, can we come by and get your mom something to eat? Oh, we're okay. We're not worried. We already had it. We'll go on in, right? And then I would be so scared of catching COVID and not making it back to my family, not knowing if there was going to be room in a hospital if it got real bad, that I was masking up. But I was in an environment where people didn't have the same beliefs in masking. And so I was literally riddled with fear on a consistent basis, let alone the hormones were diving because I was on a menopause beginning. I had no idea. So I'm a train wreck, grief and menopause and fear and, you name it. And in the middle of that, there was no need to get anxious or to get righteous or to jump on a moral hilltop about what my beliefs were, because what I was witnessing was love and compassion and service to others in the middle of a nightmare. Between the election being a nightmare for everyone, between COVID being a nightmare, people are dying. We are losing family. We're losing friends as a community of individuals. Dude, I didn't even live in the state. I mean, I was raised there, but I hadn't been back for years. But they knew my mom and dad, and my mom and dad were blue, right? And everybody came together, and it was, can we bring him meals? Can we do this? Can we do that? How's your dad doing? I'm watching, it's just, the reason I bring all that up is because in the middle of the storm, all this stuff doesn't really matter. And so I think the righteousness thing was just kind of on my mind, because I feel like there's like this like bridge that we cross over when we go from being just having a vote and having a voice and putting it on the sheet. And then we cross over into this personality, this personality, or maybe we're sparked by, maybe there's a confidence that comes about us, right? Like maybe there's like my team won, and so I get this confidence, or my team lost, and so now I'm going to protect, or whatever it is. But there's just been like this sense of, this all or nothing attitude in it. And me, I'm in recovery, right? And so a lot of us alcoholics and drug addicts, we will laugh in the rooms because we are all or nothing type of people. Like it's a thing for us to learn how to. I love what my AA sponsor will say to me. It's about harmony, Susan. It's not about balance. It's about harmony. But a lot of us in recovery, and probably some people who are not in recovery, we love extremes. There's no such thing as one, let's do 10. Or, there's no sense in being a little nice, let's be extra nice. I was just talking with I had a call on the way home today. Yesterday I was sitting in my private time, and I'd actually asked my higher power, show me where to be of service. And that may not sound like that big of a deal, but I haven't prayed for that or asked for that in a long time. Long time. And it's not because I haven't wanted to be in service, because I've been in service, my mom and my dad, like all that stuff. Like, but I had finally said, show me where I can be of service. Now, here's what happens when you pray for things like this. Sometimes if you're aligned to do something in life, like, I don't know, think about something you do and you're really good at it. Or it's just part of your, I'll say vibration. Okay. It's part of who you are. It's part of your essence. And you kind of have this ability to turn it on or turn it off, right? Like you just kind of, if I want this, it's not too easy for me just to kind of bring it into my world, right? Well, service is like that for me. And so there's a reason why I haven't prayed for that or asked for that, because it doesn't take much. And those boats turn, and all of a sudden it's like, here you go, Susan. Here's a dozen women you can help. So I'm a little cautious about it for good reasons. But for whatever reason, I have felt compelled to ask to be of service. And so I asked my higher power yesterday, show me where I can be of service. So maybe it was Friday. It was Friday I asked that. So I had a couple things over this weekend that went well, and I host a gathering at my house once a month, and that was on Friday, and that was all fine and dandy, and it was nice. And but today I was sitting at work and I got a text message from a friend in recovery who asked me if I would talk to a woman whose daughter, who's 45 years old and probably dying of the disease of alcoholism, if I would be willing to talk with this woman. And here's the thing. I look at that and I'm like, my old self, my cautious self, right, wants to say, is the woman even done drinking yet? Is she even work? Now, I'm being very transparent here, guys. So if you're watching this show right now and you're not used to the world of alcoholism and addiction, I'm kind of giving you an inside track on how we can think. And so, if you're feeling a little righteous and judgmental towards me, knock yourself out. But I'm going to be real. Okay. I'm going to be real about the disease of alcoholism and addiction right now. So when you are in service to the disease of alcoholism and addiction, you learn a couple things about the disease. And the disease is pretty cunning and baffling, right? If somebody's not ready to quit, they're not ready to quit. And so when you go to be of service to somebody who's not willing to quit, you got to ask yourself, how much service am I willing to be of? And so there's a lot of boundaries in there. There's a lot of introspection that needs to go on. So I get this text and I say to myself, is she even done drinking yet? Because I ain't playing with that if she's not, right? Because I know. I've known enough with my experience of helping others, right? But it was her mom also. So I say I give my hours of availability. I get in my truck and I'm called immediately. And it's the mom. And the reason I'm sharing this story is, my mom transitioned in May. And I have a pretty healthy relationship with transitioning, if some of you may choose to call death. But it doesn't mean I don't feel sad every now and then. I heard a powerful statement the other day about grief, and what the person or what I heard was, grief is a learned behavior. Grief is a learned behavior. Pretty powerful statement and very true. Like as soon as I heard it, it resonated. All these books on grief and all these ways we're supposed to feel. But if I truly trust that, for me, my belief system, okay, it also comes down to your belief system. If I believe that there is no such thing as death, it's, this entity leaves this physical body, the spirit does, and we go on, then, and I have a pretty healthy belief in that, but I still miss my mom. So I get in my truck and the song comes on. It makes me cry every time it comes on. In fact, I had to put it at the end of the playlist because I was be at work and I'd be listening to my pod. I'm like, I can't do it. But it was on, and it immediately reminded me of my mom. And I've been thinking about her this last week. And so then this woman calls me, the mom of the 45-year-old alcoholic woman. And we just have this wonderful conversation all the way home about just the cunning and baffling nature of alcoholism and how it impacts us, and how when us alcoholics and drug addicts are in our cup, we can be really mean, and we can take it out on family, and we can say things that are harmful. and it is a disease, and there is no making sense of it. And what I told her was, I don't even know why I'm talking about this on the show. I usually don't go into this stuff I don't go into this on the show. But what I told her was, us alcoholics and addicts, when we are in our disease, the one thing that we probably need the most of is boundaries, because we will trudge all over you because we are selfish and self-centered. We are selfish and self-centered, and we think about nothing but ourselves. The obsession is so intense when we are drugging and drinking that it is never about you. It is always about us and what we don't get, about what people have done to us. It is rarely about you. Sometimes, if it's a really internal alcoholic, I would say, the self-pity, the suicidal type, if it's not a, threat of suicide to get attention, but it's like, oh, the pride in reverse is so severe that, now it's like, oh, I'm a piece of crap. I don't amount to anything. And now I'm going to die. So that disease can be really heavy. So what I was letting her know was, and she was doing fantastic, but she had extended family members that might have been suffering a little bit with what to do with the alcoholic. What do we do with the alcoholic? Well, there's a great program out there called Al-Anon that is fantastic in helping people understand how to set boundaries with family members who are suffering. It is not an easy thing to do. It is not an easy thing to do. So I just find it fascinating sometimes where my train of thoughts go, because I was totally not planning on talking about that in that detail. And I can't even imagine how I went from self-righteousness to the disease of alcoholism. But I think somehow it's all kind of connected, right? It's all kind of connected. So self-righteousness was on my mind this week. And like I said, it was probably derived from the election and some different behaviors and things that I've been witnessing in others. But really at the core of all of that, humility. And what does humility truly, truly mean? And how is humility showing up for you in your life? Do you have an opinion that you're always needing to give out? Do you feel a need to justify or to support your facts? Do you have humility for the person who's not understanding or who's not agreeing with you in the moment? And how are you perceiving the situation? Self-righteousness can get fueled. There was a couple of things I wrote down. Feelings leading to self-righteousness. That's what I wanted to talk about. So there's these feelings. So you think, okay, well, if I become self-righteous, what's really going on with me? Like, why would I take such a position to become self-righteous? And so a couple of the feelings that I researched was, I'm feeling shameful, or I'm feeling guilty. I need to justify because of my guilt. I need to overcome something so that I'm kind of more or less convincing myself more than I'm convincing you that I'm right in this opinion, right? So there's some of that goes on. And the idea that self-righteousness, when used, in the way that I'm referring it to, coming from the hilltop, the judgmental stuff, all that list that I read through, creates a distance between you and the relationships in your life. It's going to create like it's a dam, right? Like you're not going to get across the dam when you've got the self-righteousness inflicting your relationships. I recently had said goodbye to a relationship, at least for today, because of the behaviors around this exact topic, and how, the individual, unfortunately, didn't realize that when they, went over this particular boundary with my family, that it was a deal breaker. And so it is really sad, but I could just feel the essence of self-righteousness and justification with the belief system that was behind that. And so I always like to say, if that's just one little mention of something, what's underneath the hood? What's hiding underneath the hood? So if that kind of squeaked out, what's really going on, And so when you think about that, and you think about the disconnect that can happen and the separation that can happen when we hop on our moral hilltop and we justify it. We justify it either with, our goodness that we are, or maybe because we're religious and we justify it with that, and we're going to use God and the church to justify our actions, or we're going to our the goodness of people of who we are, we're going to use that, or maybe I'm spiritual and I'm going to use that to justify my behavior. It's really quite interesting about the fine line between being right with your higher power, right with God, right, being in a place of true joy, compassion, and understanding, and righteousness in a healthy way. that moral code. When I first read the definition tonight, the moral code of righteousness, of really what it's, intent to be. And then there's that fine line between using the justification and the empowerment of others, or the empowerment, oh, here we go, the empowerment of the framework of the community in which you live in, or the stuff you're seeing online, or the power of, this is like cause or whatever, and allowing that to embellish the personality to a point where you cause distance to those that you love. You cause distance to those that you love. Oh my God, we say this in recovery. How important is it really? Is it important enough to separate you from friends? But, if the behaviors are inappropriate, I could see that. But is just the belief system important enough to separate you? What are the values that you find in your friends? What are the values that you find in your relationships? And when we get down to the values and the fulfillment of values within our relationships, within ourselves, self-righteousness has no room in that game. Can't even compete. I'll jump in a fire for you, right? That has nothing to do whether I vote red or blue, or you vote red or blue. It has nothing to do with it. I will jump in a fire for you. And I believe, folks, that the majority of the United States of America would jump in the fire for each other, because I've witnessed it with my own eyes. And that's why I tend to have an optimistic view on everything that's going on, because I trust in the heart of the matter. I trust in the heart of the matter of the individuals who make up America on both sides. Yeah, I guess maybe I needed to have some talking about that myself. I don't talk a lot about it with acquaintances. I just don't. I don't know why. I guess I just wait to blow it all out here and see what happens. Okay, so there we go. So we got self-righteousness. And then I threw in some addiction and alcoholism for some reason. Who knows? I guess it's just kind of where I've been. But if you've been conflicted lately, I've had a lot of calls from a lot of women, because primarily I work with women when it comes to recovery. Coaching, I do a couple couples, things like that. But I've had a few phone calls around the recent events, and just really feeling conflicted about the all or nothing mentality. And I would encourage you to kind of look at your values of your friendships and your relationships, and find out what's really important to you, and take a look at that. And then also ask yourself, if you're somebody who likes to defend, who likes to argue, and kind of list off some of those things that I said, when you're in the middle of that, are you practicing humility? Or do you have a sense of judgment? Do you have a sense of defending? And are your attitudes or your positions causing strain in your relationships? And if they are, really ask yourself, am I justifying that? Or do I really feel that that's the way that needs to go? Or am I just a little butthurt that somebody doesn't agree with me? Am I wanting to raise my voice? Am I wanting to throw more stats out there just because my need to be right is so heavy, right? Like what does all that have to do with compassion, humility, and love? I don't know. Doesn't seem like a lot, but maybe for some folks it does. So if you want some little introspection exercises, those are a couple of things I would say you could write about. Do some journaling on what are my values in my friendships, what's important to me today. How have my attitudes been within the last 2 weeks? Have I been an easy person to be around? Do I have any kind of kinks going on right now? And do I want to look at them? And do I get to ask myself, do I have a little bit of self-righteousness going on in there? And self-righteousness can show up not only around what I'm talking about. I mean, the election is just an easy place to go to use that as an example. But we can become self-righteous at work about our opinions. Heck, I had to make an amends to my supervisor today. Yeah, I got a little righteous on a phone call, and he came over to correct me, and he got a little of my old school stuff. And afterwards, I went to lunch, and I wanted to justify. And when I said, I owe you an amends, I apologize for that. He goes, oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. He goes, you don't need to do that. And I said, no, I think I do. It's the appropriate thing to do. So I know my crazy. I am well familiar with my crazy. It doesn't take me long to have to shift that boat around and be like, yeah, if we don't put a cap on that, Susan, you guys heard me, bulldozer, asshole. It's just sitting in my back pocket. So I am consistently working on this right here, right? So anyway, okay, having said all of that, so I'm going to wrap it up tonight, a short show for the most part. If you're looking for any type of coaching, if you even want to entertain the idea of me being your coach, after listening to this show, feel free to reach out to me at my website at susandenee.com. I got a couple different programs. One is a high performance coaching where we talk about performance, and that's a certification in high performance coaching. So we're going to be talking about psychology and persuasion, productivity, physiology. Productivity is another one. God, there's like 12 of them. And then we got the other side of it. So sometimes this one comes with a lot of folks in recovery. Some folks will go through the emotional elevation program first, which simply is we're going to be talking about agreements that you make in your life. We're going to be talking about good communication habits to have. Couples tend to go through this one first before they enter into the high performance one, because it's kind of like getting on the same page about different things in a fun, kind of energetic way. So anyways, if that's something that can be of service to you, feel free to reach out to me. You can also email me at growthspurt@susandenee.com. I would be more than happy to work with you. First session is a strategy session, and it is complimentary to find out if you think we would be a good fit and vice versa. All right, folks. Well, that is a wrap for today's show. Enjoy and have a blessed evening. Thank you. You have been listening to Know You're Crazy.
Crazy.
And my name is Susan Denee. We are identifying, understanding, and treating your crazy one episode at a time. Tune in to transformationtalkradio.com. To connect with me or Growth Spurt Your Life, please visit susandenee.com. That's Susan Denee, DENEE.com.